True, sir, and that's not true. The truth is that I set them opposed to one another because there are many big differences between the two. Obviously, there is some democracy that's involved whereby people in the communities would have an up or down vote and a majority would win. But still, on a larger sense, the republic would be winning out over the democracy. I'm simply I'm challenging.
What he meant was we have not established a king. That's all. And he would have said, well, we have a democracy. Because the Constitution is very clear that the system of government in the United States is democratic.
No, that's not true.
Democratic.
No, it's not. The Constitution does not say the word democracy at all.
I didn't say it did. I said the system is democratic.
The system is democratic according to who?
The action of citizens and citizens' rights. That's democracy.
No, no. Democracy is a form of government. It's not an esoteric theory. It's not some romantic idea.
It's a way of governing. It's not a form of government. The form of government is...
No, you're setting it up as a romantic or romanticized idea. I'm talking about it in terms of logistics. I think, obviously, that freedom of choice is the most important thing that we can do. You should have freedom of choice in schools, just like you have freedom of choice in anything else. So what we would like to begin to do is to offer the ability of parents to choose, first of all, whatever school that the parents want to send their kids to in whatever district, anywhere, is their own business. And if people want to homeschool, that is their own business as well. California recently had a judge that ruled that all homeschoolers were going to be forced to go to public school. I believe that they beat that back, but that was going to be a problem. So I would start to encourage that citizens in their own communities start to take a more active role in their kids' education. If mother government steps in and says, we're going to educate your children, well, you're going to get the type of educational system that we have right now, which is very low compared to other countries. We used to have one of the best in the world, and that was where, you know, we encouraged our mothers and our, you know, fathers to be involved in PTA boards and school boards and things like that. Now the parents don't get involved. They don't go down to the school board. They don't go to the meetings. They're not encouraged to be involved in a more like Republican form or ideal. You know, we would encourage the states to take over their educational programs. We would get the federal government out of it because federal bureaucrats don't know how to teach your children better than people in their own communities do. So we would like to start to see the phasing out of things like No Child Left Behind programs and phasing in of more community involvement, of more state involvement, more local involvement of schools.
I can speak to the federal, because I don't know about it enough, the federal education situation, but I can speak to California because I did a little bit of work with my PTA. And education in California used to be always among the top 5 in terms of the quality of school. You know, top 5 in terms of both the quality of the education when there was testing, and also it was also among always the top 5 and the top few among in per capita spending. It was at a time when California really had, and people just remember it just sort of like when they talk about it, it's a really great educational system. It was when taxes were at their highest, and the taxes went to support the schools and to pay the teachers and to get equipment and books and facilities for the children. And so it just seems to me, again, I've just questioned that in my case, where that's a situation in which for children of all different backgrounds and different financial situations, that they were given access for the most part in California to quality education. And it was, in that case, it doesn't at least strike me that it was done because it was people individually or in their communities being more dedicated to their schools, but because there was actually government, the people chose to vote and to agree to higher taxes in order to pay for a higher quality education. And then there was Proposition 13, which was a property tax cut, and that froze property taxes at a certain level, and money, it dropped a great deal. And so anyhow, I don't mean to go into this, but I just, because it happens to jibe with the stuff that I've been following, it just seems to me that that's different from what you're saying, that's a case where it's not just a matter of individual prerogative and individual motivation and communities, but it was in fact, it was a whole group of people democratically choosing to support their schools with money, and then at some point a majority of them choosing not to. And so I don't know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sort of. I don't know that. Obviously, I don't know that that individual study, and I don't know that particular situation. But I guess my argument would be, this sort of heresy. But I don't think that it takes a lot of money to get a good education. I mean, somehow we managed to educate our population for the last couple of hundred years, and in like one-room schoolhouses. One good teacher with pencils and paper and chalkboard can give a good education.
Just as a devil's advocate? I mean. You were accusing a questioner of being romantic or romanticizing democracy, and it seems to me, Austin, at least for me, and I feel it. I mean, it's a really lovely image. But are you possibly romanticizing a libertarian sort of past, a past of one school teacher? I mean, my wife is a school teacher. She's been working for 25 years. She works really, really hard. Okay. The absence of money for the children, the poor children in the poor neighborhoods in which she teaches, is an enormous detriment, And I think, again, and it's fascinating to me because when you talk about No Child Left Behind, that yes, there are all of these ways in which you blame, to my mind, and I don't mean to take over here. I'm sorry,
no, it's fine.
But but when you talk about like blaming the community or blaming the teachers or something like that, maybe I'm agreeing with you in some way. What I'm saying is
teachers, though. I certainly don't blame the teachers at all.
But this idea of sort of, I guess it doesn't jibe, I guess, with my experience. It doesn't seem to me, my sense of people in the one-room schoolhouses, I don't know that they were super well educated. Maybe they were.
What happens?
Maybe they were good with pencils.
So this is a very difficult subject. But what happens to a teacher when they don't teach, when they don't do a good job? Do they lose their jobs?
There should absolutely be accountability. Is that your question?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, see, that's a problem. We do have a lack of accountability a lot of times.
But who are the accountants?
Well, perhaps what we should do
are the community, or is it larger? Who makes the rules?
This is theory. But what you do is you introduce competition into the system, whereby instead of de-incentivizing, where you're going to lose your job, offer higher pay to better teachers. Teachers whose students produce better test scores, offer them higher pay. But then the teachers will be incentivized, and then that way they'll, instead of instituting a one-size-fits-all policy where all teachers are going to get a certain type of salary, why work harder? Why achieve if you know that you're going to keep your job and keep the same salary the whole entire year?
No, I think I'm going to let other people speak. We have about 5 minutes to go. Thank you, by the way. I just want to thank you before thanking you later in a few minutes for this very provocative discussion. Sure. Yes?